when your kids are getting to that point where you're tired of them asking you for everything and they can actually start doing a couple things on their own, when do you stop making lunch for them? When do you stop, doing some of those things, right? And it's like, I haven't eaten in 3 days. When is Mom going to get on the ball here?
But the more they thank you,
Get out
the
of the
more you
refrigerator.
want to do.
You're right. But we'll sit there as a kid. I remember doing this too. Oh, gosh. I got to call my mom after this. So I just remember not eating for like 2 days. I remember this. I think I was in junior high. And I can make a sandwich, guys. I really can at this point. Mm-hmm. And I remember not eating for 2 days because Mom and Dad just didn't. They went and ate out by themselves. It was kind of one of those, things. And I was like, "Can you bring me back any food?" And then I remember sitting there going, "Mom, when are you going to make me some food?" She's like, "You have arms, you have legs, we have food. Go make it." And it's like,
For 2 days before you figured it out.
and and there again.
You were ahead of these guys by 1 whole day, so don't. You're doing okay.
I guess I'm doing all right then. But, it's making that point, though, in my head, though, that I like what Jay had to say because, you know what? When I thank my mom for things, when I go that, when we go that extra mile, I mean, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. We have never bought clothes for our kids. Not once in 3.5 years have we bought clothes. 4 years. Sorry, we got a 4-year-old. 4 years have we had to buy clothes for our kids because they've all been given. They've been given. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a hallelujah, praise the Lord moment. And we keep giving that blessing, and we just thank God for that, and we thank Him for that provision. And I keep thanking Mom for that, and I guarantee you, every time we go home, we got 6 more bags of clothes to bring home. You know what I mean? And because the blessing's there, we just got to acknowledge it.
You just haven't had time to bless somebody else because you keep making more.
Yeah, you're right. Jim?
Love you. Love you.
So, let's go. Yes, sir. Oh, right, yeah.
He knows that look.
Right. I'm waiting until he gets into junior high so I can do that to him. See how long it takes him. He's smarter than I am, so it shouldn't take him 2 days to not eat anything.
Just one.
Just one. Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, she's not gonna make anything. I'll go make some food. Let's go to 16 because I think this next part's pretty good.
Hey, Zach.
Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday he tried to make something.
Yesterday he did try to make his own breakfast. What did he end up making? Peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Hey, it is.
Yeah.
It's nutritious.
Yeah, peanut butter and jelly. Yeah.
I wasn't doing it fast enough.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to manna. Let's go to the quail and manna provided. So we see the faithlessness that the children of Israel have. Once again, they're still called the children of Israel. In verse 2, and the whole congregation of the children, and it says this every time, the whole congregation. It's not 1 or 2 people. It was the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we have died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt? I mean, I think Moses was probably getting a little tired of hearing that. Yeah. Well, we're not all the way through the story yet. You're right. There's a lot more to it, but at the same time, he's actually to the point where he's going, they're gonna stone me. What's going on?
Do you think they ate pretty well in Egypt?
Huh?
You think they ate pretty well in Egypt?
Sure.
I mean, I guess they did because they're like, food's a big deal.
Well, food's a big deal when I don't eat too.
Yeah.
I mean, there again, so is water.
Mm-hmm.
It's Coke when I've got plenty of water. Whatever. Then verse 4. Then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not? Okay, so there's a substance that's coming down from heaven that the children of Israel have to go out and pick up a rate of. And people in here probably know what an omer is. I've heard it called 2 quarts. Okay, there again, I wasn't back then, so I don't know. I just know that the best knowledge that I have, the best information from my study on it, is that it was about 2 quarts per person. Okay, that was an omer, or a tenth of an ephod. Okay. Now, there's this substance that these people have never seen before, and God's telling them, okay, you got to go out and get this stuff. He said, you got to go get a certain amount. And if you've got 10 people in your household, you got to pick up a lot of it. And if you've got 2 people in your household, you got to pick up a little of it. And those who picked up a lot had enough, and never had too much. And those who picked up a little always had enough, and never had too little. So he's laying this out, and he's saying, they come outside. You got to just imagine this, okay? First time you saw it snow, if you didn't grow up in snow like I did, I grew up in Ozona, Texas, where once every 10 years it snows. Okay, so when it snowed, it was a big thing, okay? I mean, it was like, we stopped school, and it didn't have to stick at all. There was no school that day. We'd get boxes out and slide down hills. I mean, it was amazing. But we had a great time with it, but it was one of those things of this magical thing coming from the sky, okay? And that's what I'm kind of imagining with this manna thing, because these guys are hungry at this point, and they're going, what is this stuff? Do you actually know what manna means? What is it? Great name, you know? I mean, that's a great name. It's like naming Christopher Boy.
Well,
you know?
or Garen by his real name, brother.
Or brother, yeah, exactly.
Samuel says his name is Levi.
Or there you go, exactly. So that's what I mean. It's that they're going, what is this stuff? Well, I guess we got to call it something. What is it?
What is
I
it?
love that.
What is it?
What is it? We're having what is it tonight? You know? Y'all want some more
What's
what is
on
it?
the menu?
Yeah, I'll take some more what is
We
it.
got
Let's- I
fried,
mean,
what
this
is
is
it? We got grilled, what is it?
Got some, what is it?
We got what is it that was picked up 3 minutes ago? What is it that was picked up 5 minutes ago? Whatever your choice. And so, how did he test them to prove them no?
Whether they would
Not
not
keep
do it
it
on the
overnight.
seventh day,
They were gonna
or
work
not keep it overnight, that's right.
Whether
Not keeping it overnight was first.
Whether they would gather together on the 6th day.
Okay, that didn't happen yet though. The first week, okay, the very first week it happens, I'm kind of thinking it was a Sunday, that they got their first order of manna. And they're going, huh? And then they go pick it up and they go, I don't know if this stuff's coming back, so I'm going to take up 2 boxes worth, 4 ephods, and we're going to stick this in our house. And then it stank. And then there was worms. And why would he pick worms and stink?
Egypt, plague.
I think so. I'm with you on that. That was what I thought of when it said that.
Remind them of the,
Right.
yeah.
To make them think of that, the putridness, that stink, the rot, the...
Frogs, think of the
I was gonna
frogs.
say, was those the 2 that they were in on, were those 2 of the 3 that they were in on?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, but there again, though,
Right.
we're also putting them in slavery over here. I don't think they had, like you were saying, how well did they eat? I don't think it was all that well.
I've never.
But at the same time, they were in slavery. When I think of slavery, I think of the slums. I think of, the Holocaust and all those kind of things. I think of those kind of situations where moldy bread was a delicacy at that point because it was anything to eat. And so that's why I think that it was worms and stink, because it was to make sure that they knew that God said something, they better do it.
Well, and even a teenage boy will not eat something that has worms or stinks.
You're right. You're right. My little boy might, but actually he's pretty good about things that stink. He's like, like greens. He won't eat greens. It's not happening. It does stink. I don't know. All right.
Makes sense, that's why I wouldn't eat cheese.
Yes, sir.
What if they ate better in Egypt than they did in the wilderness? Because they wanted to go back and get
That's what I was thinking.
their bagel and their cheese.
Yeah.
Okay? So, if we live in Egypt today, we
Right.
eat pretty good.
Sure.
They
Right.
got their manna and their water, okay? And they learned to be satisfied with it, and it sustained them, yes. We may eat better today, but does it really sustain nutritional?
No, not at all.
But our taste buds, like,
Or satisfied, right?
Yeah, well, for 10 minutes.
I try to go 1 week without eating anything with sugar.
That's a fast, isn't it?
Exactly. That's a food fast. Wow. Yeah, I've never looked at it that way. You're right. I mean, that's the way to actually, once again, which is what we'll get to here in a minute, is the fact that there's two kingdoms here.
Yeah, who's feeding what?
Right.
Satan will feed your flesh.
Right. And you know, the stuff with Satan's pretty cool. It's pretty good. Pretty nice. It's fun. But it's not satisfying. So, all right, we'll get to that in a second. Now, the second way that he tests them. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one thing to add to that. Why would he add, I will take none of the diseases of Egypt? Because the food that they ate
parasite.
caused cancer and all these terrible diseases. And our diet caused all these diseases. People know, that pork and sugar and things are deadly.
I think it goes to. I put another spin on that. I think it also goes down to that these people know is Egypt.
Right.
Moses is the only one that's not in Egypt at the time that they're coming out. And so he's the only one that knows about anything different.
Yeah, basically, he's back out in the wilderness.
Right.
He's been back there for what, 40 years.
So I'm making the point that it's also relaying it to them of these are the people you know, and this is the bad stuff that just went on with them. He's making that such a powerful motivator because when we know of everyone in here knows someone who's had cancer, right? But how many of us have had a family member that's had cancer? Right. Or how many of us have had, we've all known somebody who's broken a limb. But how much more do you remember it or know about it or feel it when you've broken a limb? You know what I mean? It's that closeness association. It's that I do not want even anything to deal with that. You know what I mean? So he's making that such a vivid picture in their mind that they wouldn't dare go back to it. You know what I mean? So now let's go on to the second way he tests and proves it. It's to what?
Take double on the 6th day.
Take double on the 6th day, prepare it, get it ready, and you can leave it out overnight. Okay?
Right, taken up for 2 days.
Take it up for 2 days. What happened?
Some did,
Some,
Some did, some didn't.
right.
Who shows that he's frustrated at this point? Moses. He's going, oy vey, oy vey. My Lord in heaven, what have you given me to deal with?
I got a little frustrated too.
Do
How
what?
long will you
Yeah.
refuse to keep my commands
Right.
and instructions? How long have they had these particular instructions? About a week?
About a week. Now let's actually go to what this is for though. Because is this so that they have food?
It's not a conservation of manna.
No. No, it's not about their conservation of manna. Okay? It's about setting aside the holy day.
Right.
It's about re-preparing the Sabbath day. Because hasn't the Sabbath day been a part of the children of Israel before?
Is it also about discipline and trusting Him every day for food and not just store up for a week? You know what I mean? Like it's trusting Him every day.
You're right. I think that was the first test and trial. You're right. But that second one, you're right. So it was that dependence on the Lord. It was, come to me. When you want something, come to me.
Die to yourself daily.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and the only day that we're allowed to store up for is the seventh day.
Right.
So it's like when he's saying, keep treasures in heaven,
Absolutely.
desire the meat that's not
Definitely.
fresh.
And he's pointing to that time to come. He's definitely pointing to that time to come. But he's doing it why? He's repurposing his calendar. Because they've been in Egypt where they didn't have their calendar. They had Pharaoh's calendar.
Right.
Okay? And so he's repurposing the Sabbath day. What is the first feast that's mentioned in Leviticus?
Sabbath.
The Sabbath day. The Sabbath day is the first feast. Moses and God are laying out for the children of Israel, and I'm not putting Moses in the same elevation. I'm saying through Moses, God is reestablishing that covenant.
Right?
What does he say that the Sabbath day is?
That is-
It's a holy day. It's a holy day. It's his holy day.
Yeah, that's the first feast mentioning all of this.
Right.
That goes back to the creation.
You're right. You're right. And so I'm just making that point. This is going back to, though, that if we keep talking about, well, the children of Israel, they believed, or they knew, or from way back when, well, they may have, but he's having to reestablish it here. Why? Because they've changed it. It hadn't been the same way.
It was changed on them, or they didn't have the ability to keep the Sabbath when they were in bondage. They just weren't allowed.
But isn't there, when you have an ox in your ditch, isn't there a way to still do that? Because if they're in bondage,
Mhm.
they still have to do the work, otherwise they die, right?
Right.
So they could have still kept the Sabbath. Think of it this way. If you're a slave,
I mean,
if you're a
they
slave,
milk,
you can
they
still...
milk on Saturday. They have
Sure.
to for the care of the animals.
Right. We do too.
Yeah.
She milked this
Yeah,
morning.
yeah, I mean,
Is
it's
she
not-
breaking Sabbath law?
It's not about
No.
breaking Sabbath.
Right. But I'm making that point. They've changed it. It's changed. Okay? So he's re-establishing that covenant.
Are we sure that, are we absolutely positive they were keeping the Sabbath?
Well, we don't think they were. I don't think they were.
Or that they even knew about it?
Yes.
Yes, I
I
think
think
they
they
knew
knew,
about
I
it.
think they knew about it.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because they knew like they had to go.
Well, because they passed down all this other stuff. I mean,
They
if we
knew the
passed down the
story of
fact that you gotta take Joseph's
They knew the
bones
story
out
of
of here.
creation. They knew, I mean, there again, you gotta, it depends on what you believe, and I'm not trying to get into debate here, guys, because will open up a can of worms, but it's what you believe of oral Torah versus written Torah. You know, personally, I believe that oral Torah was given
Yeah.
way back when. And if the oral Torah was given way back when, it didn't change when the new one was written.
Yeah.
So, if that's the case, then they knew about it. So, that's what I'm saying. It had to have changed. They have had to have changed the way they view it or do it.
Right.
So, yes, sir.
Well, I think in that day, they were arguing with which day was the Sabbath, but because God showed them what it was for 40 years. Now, you gotta realize, most of the old people died.
They all died.
3/4 of the people have never seen anything but the Sabbath. And so God established it by using the manna for 40 years.
Okay.
We had to breathe.
I used to be Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes, ma'am?
My grandmother was Adventist, and I knew the Sabbath day was God's day, but I didn't have a really personal experience with the Sabbath.
Sure.
And I kept it all those years, and then when I married Jay, and he didn't keep the Sabbath, and he was doing Sunday, and it stayed in the back of my mind and in my heart, and I missed it, but it really didn't, it was like, well, it's not so bad, most people don't keep the Sabbath, and they're good people, and they're going to church. So I think that perhaps the Israelites knew about the Sabbath day. I don't think they kept it. I think that it was kind of like one of those little things in the back of their head, like, I wonder if I should be doing this on Sabbath, but I don't think they really had a personal relationship with Sabbath.
Yes, sir.
And keep in mind, if they had fallen away, thank you, so we don't know.
Right.
They're helping to reestablish, put it back in.
Right.
Get it, back to its level of holiness.
Right. And why?
Just that it's God's day.
It's foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
What you were saying earlier about he used Moses to establish his truth. This is what he's doing now with awakening his bride.
Uh-huh.
He's using all of us, like Alan talked about on Wednesday at Misty's, to reestablish his kingdom and tear down the kingdoms of this world.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to get there in a second. I promise you I'm just about there. I keep saying it. In a second, we'll get there, but no, we will. Because that's the good point, because what we're actually looking at, I don't know how many of you in here have family members that do not believe the same way you do. Most of us, probably. But,
Family members that do.
but one of the things that I've been bombarded with in not too recent past, not future, too recent past, was that, well, the Sabbath day's on Sunday. It got moved. And I was like, really? You know, I mean, so I'm just making the point that even those that say that hold that truth, what are they doing on the Sabbath?
Yeah.
What are they doing on their Sabbath? What are they doing on their Sabbath? Because here's the thing, if we establish a truth, and then we say, okay, well now we're going to move it, did it move what you do on that day, or did it just move the day? Well, I was told that it just moved the day, and I'm like, okay, well then let's look at what you can do and what you can't do. I'm not telling y'all what to do on the Sabbath, I'm just telling you that there's biblical truths in there about buying things, and about seeking your own pleasures, and about, you know what I mean? There's things in there, and I'm going, wow, what they're doing is not lining up. That's why I'm getting to this point, that it's on us. That if we keep the Sabbath day, we've got to keep it holy. We've got to keep it a day that other people, when they see it, can see Yahweh. That's what it's about. Because if I can say that, oh, well, I moved the Sabbath day, but I'm doing the same thing, that's where it gets confusing, right? But if I've set aside a day, Friday night to Saturday night, or some people say it's different, but I say it's Friday night to Saturday night, and if I'm established that in that, and I'm going by biblical principle on that, am I lined up with the Word of God?
No. So their
I hope
excuse
so.
for that is that God made the Sabbath for man, not man for the Sabbath, so therefore they can relax and do whatever they enjoy as long as they're, that's their excuse.
It comes back to our standard, though.
I know.
When we're going to have a debate, do we have a standard when we start a debate? If we have a standard when we start a debate, then we can have a debate. If we don't have a standard when we start a debate, you can't debate. You can't argue with a fool. Right?
They just simply don't see it.
Because if we're going to say that this isn't right, then there's nothing else to talk about.
What do you think how do you think we can change our lives to help people see that?
How? One is that it's inviting people over. It's welcoming in the Sabbath with other people. It's letting them see that side. It's also inviting them to this. It's also setting aside those kind of things. And it's when you're out with them because you have something to do, you talk about what you're doing. I'm making a suggestion of what I do. Because am I doing what's right? I hope. I'm doing what I see.
Well, that's one of the points I'm going to ask you, is if true within the body that even a Sabbath, we don't all have the same standards for how we keep.
You're right. And that's where we're getting to this part right here. We are all here today with a little bit different mindset on different things, right? Deanna, you feel differently about certain things than I do, right? But that means that I can learn from you. And that if I've read through this many times and you've read through it this many times, when we have a discussion, what are we doing? We're learning from each other. It's that give and take. That's what this is supposed to be. We're creating a community here of believers. Andrew and I are working together now. And guess what? We're in the truck every day and he pulls out the sword and he's like, no, did you see this? Did you look at this? And I'm going, no, I didn't look at that. And he's like, okay, well, look at this. And so he's testing me every day. And he's going, well, what do you think about this? And I'm going, I haven't thought about it this way, but let's go here and let's look at it here. And we get to do that back and forth. And that's what was so good about it. How long have you been doing this? 2 years? 2 years. I've been doing it 6. Am I right and he's wrong, or is he right and I'm wrong? No, we're learning from each other. That's the symbioticness of this relationship. That's what we're talking about. And that's where we have to come out of this kingdom of Satan. We have to be baptized. We have to go through the river. We have to actually let die what dies. Become new man and be in the kingdom of God. If we're going to be established in this kingdom of God, what do we got to do? We got to follow His ordinances. And if we don't, what happens? He tells us throughout here what happens. Yes, ma'am.
So you just mentioned how this this journey parallels our journey. So if you keep what we're talking about as far as the water and the manna, what they represent as far as letting the water of the Word wash us, but the manna being that discipline of what it represents, which is us feeding on the bread daily.
See, she gives me a lot of credit for thinking that. Thank you. No, she just said it. No, you're right. It's that progressional walk. But what have we all gotten to? To Sinai. Who's in the promised land right now? Not us.
Nobody.
Where do we want to go? Hey, who wants to go to the promised land? All right. That's what I'm saying. We want to go to the promised land. So that's the point, is that we've taken this progressive walk. She's taking a progressive walk too.
That's great.
And so we're on this journey, and we have gotten to this point where we're at Sinai, and now we've identified with His ordinances and His statutes, right? And we have to start doing them. And we have to start showing other people that we're doing them. And have to show other people that if you do them, guess what? There's a promise for us.
If you do them with the right heart.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
You can do them, and He's going to...
You know, it's funny because Randy K brought up something very interesting the last time we were talking about that outward sign. Who in here has heard of the outward sign of circumcision? How outward is circumcision? We don't pull down our pants in here, guys. So what I'm saying is, it's not an outward sign, but it is an outward sign. So what is it really about, though? What is Paul telling Peter?
Circumcise your heart.
It's about the heart.
It would be an outward sign.
Well, if you circumcise the heart, you'll get to the outward sign.
Okay, and I wonder if you can practice, though, if the practice doesn't actually help the circumcision of your heart too, though. It can't work both ways. Yes, just practice, just the halal, just the halakha walk is not going to get it for you. It's about your heart. You have to have that agadah. But the walk, I think, also does still have a purpose in helping you ultimately circumcise your heart too.
Well, sure. You know, when you're, as a parent, you tell your child, don't cross the street without holding my hand.
Right.
And you make that a rule. You don't cross the street without holding my hand.
Right.
Now, a little bitty child, you can't explain the reason, and they can't take to heart why.
This
But they can practice that.
18-wheeler is going to make you
That's
into a
right.
pancake. Right.
You know, but then by the time they're 5 or 6, you explain, see these cars going by? That
And they
can
know
hurt
it
you.
better.
And as they get older, you know, but you're right, it's, you start walking it out,
Well, and like
and the understanding comes.
where is it? I'm not sure again where it is in Acts, where they finally say, okay, here's the 4 things. The new guys, here's the new guys. Give them these things, okay? We got to give them a walk. We got to give them something to walk out before their heart's there. But let's just start with some basics, some simple stuff. You know, okay, do this.
All right, Jay's cutting me off. I got one more point to make, Jay. One more point, and that's it. And then we're done. I just thought it was interesting at the very end of 17. The very end of 17, God is telling, all right, let's start here. All right, 13 through 16.
Can we go back to 1634? This one, I mean, you know, you saw that. As the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. So we're on page